The Sonic Bible is an internal document created by Sega of America in 1991 during the production of the original Sonic the Hedgehog game. At the time of writing, Sega of America had little to no exposure to any original Japanese fiction relating to Sonic, and the Bible was an attempt to establish the definitive Sonic backstory in non-Japanese regions. It was never published and continually revised during development, so many different versions exist, although there are 7 common elements. In particular, according to the Bible, Dr. Robotnik was once a kind human scientist named Dr. Avni Kidnobor before turning evil by a lab accident. The original story from the Bible was used in the writing of the Sonic the Hedgehog promotional comic and the guidebook Stay Sonic, which is in turn influenced by the backstory used in the UK Sonic the Comic series. Later drafts of the Bible also provide the first reference to Mobius, Sonic's home planet. Let's get right in. Sonic the Hedgehog Bible. Chapter 1. The Sonic Story. Sonny the Hedgehog was born on Earth in the early 21st century in the town of Hardley, Nebraska, population 1,226. He and his mother and 5 sisters live underneath a scraggly hedge beside the local burger joint and subsist on burger scraps, milkshakes, and the occasional slug or bug that crawls their way. They are a poor but happy family. Unfortunately, Sonny's dad died when Sonny was just a few days old, after falling into a gurgling, festering vat of toxic waste dumped in a nearby pond. Mama Hedgehog does her best to keep Dad's memory alive, however, regalating the kids with stories of his goodness, resourcefulness, and great agility. "He was the fastest hedge runner this town has ever seen," she exclaimed, as her family enjoyed tea and mealworms in front of a roaring fire. "I hope you all will take after him," she said wistfully as she cast a loving eye upon Sonny. Sonny looked at the framed photo of his father, which stood proudly on the mantel. The firelight casts a strange yet comforting shadow on the earthen walls and ceilings of the burrow. All at once, the face in the picture seems to snuffle and wink. "Did you see that, Mom? Dad winked at me. He's counting on me to be somebody great." "Did you see? Mom, did you see?" said Sonny, jumping up and down excitedly. "Shh, honey. I'm sure wherever he is in hedge heaven, your father's looking down on all of us and sends his love." She gathered the dinner plates and smiled gently at her son. Never had terribly good eyesight, she thought to herself, and yet there's something special about her son, something she couldn't quite put her paw on. There was something special about Sonny, many something specials, as a matter of fact. During the first summer of his life, Sonny grew handsome and clever with thick, bushy brown quills and a headstrong personality and a rambunctious sense of humor. His favorite trick was to frequent the local bowling alley and curl up in a ball, return, awaiting the grasp of an unsuspecting bowler. "Yow!" the bowler would shriek. "Must be that darned hedgehog again," the bowler would yell, and the whole team would crack up at the practical joke. And sometimes Sonny would change his tactic. He would curl up ever so tightly and stay perfectly still as the bowler tossed down the alley. At the last moment, right before he hit the head pin, Sonny would uncurl and scamper away, routing the bowler's perfect score. Although he loved playing practical jokes on people, Sonny also loved people. While making the rounds for juicy tidbits and gossip, he would drop in on the ladies at the local quilting circle to offer a convenient pen or needle from this ample portable supply. He spent the summer frolicking in the town and with other children, donating quills so that they could scribble designs in the sandbox. In time, he noticed that his playmates drew some of the same patterns over and over again while pointing at him, Sonny. In this fashion, over a few weeks, Sonny learned to read and write. He was some hedgehog. But more important than anything else he did, Sonny ran the hedges every night while someone slept. Sonny sprinted from one end to the other of the long hedge outside the burger joint. Sometimes he ran so fast that the world rushed by in a blur. He loved that feeling. Pure exhilaration. A feeling like a dream, so he could fly up from the ground and do great things. One day, his dream began to come true. After drowning in a particularly big, greasy, late dinner, the coach of Hardley's track team stepped out of the door of the burger joint and started walking towards the car when he glanced at the hedge. He could scarcely believe his eyes, and he had wondered if he consumed one too many whopping beef glopper. A blue streak darted in and out of the long hedgerow, streaking from one end to another. The coach drew out his stopwatch and tried to clock the object. Impossible, he muttered to himself. He's too fast to clock. This creature was the fastest runner he'd ever seen. In no time at all, Sonny was on the team, competing in local and regional track tournaments. And the summer's days lengthened. So did the lines of trophies Sonny brought back home to the borough. The whole town was proud of him. The coach began talking about Sonny as an Olympic athlete, hopefully. And then nature and mother called. Sonny, I know you want to be a great runner, and you will be someday, but first you need to rest a bit. Don't you feel the chill in the air? It's nearly fall. Soon it will be time to hibernate. Mom? Gee whiz, I don't have time to hibernate. Can't I keep practicing all winter? He pleaded. But Mom was adamant, concerned that the practice all year round during his first year of life would permanently stunt Sonny's growth. She insisted. She prepared the burrow for a long winter, lining Sonny's chamber with soft, dry leaves and pine needles. The coach and the Olympic stardom would have to wait until spring. All over town, the mercury shrank lower and lower, hunking down into a thick finger of silver. Farmers put up their corns and oats, family canned their summer produce, and the hedgehog family withdrew from the light of day, safely encased in the burrow. Sonny read a comic book and listened to the rattle and brittle of branches, whipped around by the wind. He felt fat and content from a meal of candied apples that the townspeople had generously invited him to take home from their Halloween party. He chuckled as he remembered carrying an entire bushel on his back, neatly skewered on his quills. Then suddenly he had an idea. There's really no reason why I have to stay sleeping all winter. I can just tunnel over a few feet and pop up on the far edge of the hedge. Mom will never miss me, he thought, pleased at his stroke of cleverness, so he began to tunnel. Tunneled 5, then 10 minutes. All the while thinking of the great track contest he would win in spring. As he counted his victories, his digging became more enthusiastic. He grew more and more tired. Just a short nap, he thought, and then I'll tunnel upwards. So he curled up for a brief snooze. 1 hour passed, then a day. Succumbing to natural instinct, Sonny drifted off into hibernation, beyond alpha, beyond beta, beyond even delta waves. He felt peaceful and secure. The quiet was wonderful. But like most peaceful times in the 21st century, it didn't last long. Whir, clunk, clunk, whir, zip, whir. The earth above him shook. The ground grew warm and then hot. Sonny awakened, drenched in sweat and shaking, but not from fear. Everything around him was shaking. He looked up at the ceiling of a small cave and saw the earth churning. Zow! Time to clear out of here, he thought, digging furiously to escape whatever it is plunging towards him. Quick, quick, he panted, I must survive. And then he felt something, a rusty pipe, just large enough to squeeze through. He scrambled through the pipe, his toes clattering on the metal. Whatever seemed innumerable twists and turns, he saw the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. Relieved, he ran towards it and tumbled head over heels out of the pipe into an immense room. Well, 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 look who we have here. Arrhenius Aropius, a trim, kindly, mustachioed man bent over. Sonny. Sonny had been called many things in his life, but nothing as strange as this. Are you all right? The man said. Wait a minute. Silly of me. Let me aim the lingua scramblerum at you and see what you've got to say. Sonny was too dazed to protest. The man wheeled over an odd-looking contraption that was somehow shaped like all the letters in the alphabet mashed up together. He pointed at Sonny. My name is not Accius, it's Sonny. And what's happening out there underground? Sonny heard himself squeak in an accusing tone of voice. He had never spoken human before. Oh, that? So sorry to disturb you. That's my Cowinger retractable particulate courier. I'm using it to dig for emeralds. Found 6. Looking for the 7th. Then my work will be done. the man explained, smiling and speaking very quickly. He seemed to have a lot on his mind and few words to waste. He had already returned to an enormous control panel on the far end of the room, where the red and green lights danced and ribbons of paper spewed from the printer. Sonny was too amazed to say anything more. It was obvious that this man was some sort of genius, totally wacko, or perhaps both. Sonny trotted across the gleaming floor of the lab, marveling at the dazzling array of contraptions lined up along the walls, atop counters piled high on shelves. "What are you doing with all this stuff? Who are you?" Sonny demanded, stamping his foot with impatience. The magnificence of the lab did not put a damper on his boldness. "Curiosity. How I love curiosity. You have the making of a top-notch scientist. If only you could hold on to this admirable quality," the man proclaimed, now giving his full attention to Sonny. "My name, see here," he pointed to the tag on the lapel of his starchy white lab coat, "is Dr. Avi Kidnabor. You can call me Dr. K. And my mission, my little friend, is to save the planet from destruction. And for now, all you need to know, unless of course you can help me find, the Gray Emerald." The Gray Emerald? 6 other emeralds saving the planet during the long months of winter? With a diligence that nearly matched the intensity of Kidnabor's experiment, Sonny drew out some of the stories behind these seemingly disparate topics. Kidnabor, Sonny learned, was a brilliant neurobiologist and former team leader of the government's controversial Nuvolution research. The goal of the research was to somehow reverse the effects of accumulated centuries of pollution and restore the Earth to its natural, pristine state. The Nuvolutionist team of biologists, physicists, botanists, and astronomers worked assiduously towards the goal for 15 years. Then, on the verge of a breakthrough concerning the structure and behavior of the free radical subatomic particles, funding for the work was cut. With their project doomed to oblivion, the scientists scattered. Many teams took lucrative positions in private industries. Others went mad with frustration. But Kidnabor abhorred such resignations to one's fate. Instead of bailing out, he sabotaged the government security system and moved the lab, lock, stock, and barrel, to a former radioactive dumping site in northern Nebraska, several miles from Hardy. He figured he had selected the perfect site. What better to test the solution than underneath the nation's most notorious top-secret wasteland? All things natural, all creatures left untouched and uncontrollable by humans. This summed up Kidnabor's concept of the beautiful and the sublime. And as an extension of this passionate philosophy, besides working to save the planet, Kidnabor had another goal: to rescue any poisoned or struggling animals he managed to find in his course of excavations. Dozens of bunnies, squirrels, ducks, and even baby piglets were among the regular groups of guests residing in the lab. All were welcome to spend time gaining strength, resting, and eating Kidnabor's excellent cooking. When fully recovered, they were encouraged to return to the wild. During this particularly severe winter, the animals were only too happy to remain in the lab until spring, a fact that was very good news for Sonny. Days after he delighted in making friends and playing games with the other animals, and even teaching several to read and write. When Kidnabor noticed Sonny's academic skills, a light flashed above his head. "Sonny," he said, "vacation's over. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. Henceforth and forthwith, I'm making you my assistant. That is, if you accept, of course." He added Sonny was thrilled at the prospect, because although Sonny had never known his father, Kidnabor reminded him of the kind face in the photograph. Days flew by with Sonny and Dr. K's side almost constantly. Sonny learned computer sciences, from building the small portable computers to program the mainframe. He learned about physics, the old laws, and as well as a few new theories set forth by Dr. K, and his curiosity was boundless and led him to every part of Kidnabor's lab. He documented the results of each experiment. As the lab was fast, Sonny took to running at top speeds to perform all of his duties. How odd, he thought, to find himself gradually replacing dreams of Olympic glory with a dedication to science and helping other animals. Still, he knew he'd never be a nerd like Dr. K, so partly for relaxation and partly for Dr. K's amusement, he logged in several hours a day on the supersonic treadmill that Kidnabor had built for him. Slowly, Sonny built his speeds to 200, 400, and 716 miles per hour, the speed of sound. Then, impossibly, he crossed all known limits of acceleration and began running at the speed of light. Alarmed, Kidnobor tried to slow the treadmill. Although he managed to gain control of the machine and bring his friend's velocity down slowly, a change had come over Sonny. Instead of his exceptionally grayish-brown color, most of his body turned cobalt blue, and his quills stood straight back in a stiff mohawk. "My word," exclaimed Kidnobor, who struggled to comprehend what just happened. "I think you've gone blue from the advanced non-conducive cobalt effect," he said, helping Sonny from the treadmill. 186,000 miles per hour. You're so fast. We should call you Sonic. Supersonic, even. How do you like that?" he cried, dancing around the lab like a demented pixie. "Yes, I like that," answered Sonny. "From now on, my name is Sonic." Now, watch how fast I can help you get your work done. Sonny did speed up the pace and success of Kidnobor's experiments, but with all of his mental and physical agility, he was unable to find the gray emerald, let alone understand why Kidnobor was so frantic over it. "What's the point of finding another emerald when we already got 6 perfectly good ones?" he wondered to himself. That very same day, he stumbled upon the answer. Running through a part of the lab that was still a bit unfamiliar, he tripped over a thick mass of wires. "What strange," he thought. Dr. K is always so tidy with his equipment. He followed the cords and cables to a small room he hadn't been in ever before. There, in the center of the room, stood a large machine comprised of nearly totally slender gold rings. The gold surface looked as though they'd been crafted and polished with great care. "Ah, I see you've found the reverse quantum bioformulator. Excellent," said Dr. K, who had hurried over to Sonic's side. "Why don't you tell me about this thing, and what do you use it for?" asked Sonic. He felt a bit hurt that Dr. K kept a machine secret from him, and fairly bristled with impatience. "Did you ever ask about it?" Dr. K countered. "No, but now you are. So now you'll have your answer. But it's a long story, so we have a bit of a lunch," he suggested, pulling a few hard-boiled eggs and a muffin from his lunch bag he had stuffed in his pocket. They pulled up chairs around the reverse quantum bioformulator and began to eat. As usual, Sonic gulped down his meal in a flash. He was an old pro at fast food. Kidnobor had set a half-eaten egg on the counter near the machine and pulled up a heavy iron key from his lab coat. He walked over to a tall, lead-encased cabinet in the corner of the room, unlocked the door, and drew out a black velvet bag. "These are the emeralds I told you about, Sonic," he said carefully, placing each on the black velvet. They were truly incredible, deep, brilliant colors with perfect Tiffany-cut shapes. Each must have weighed nearly a pound. "They're perfect. I cut them myself," Kidnobor boasted. "They contain a microliquid copy of all the inert energy of every gross and disgusting impulse or deed done by humans since the beginning of time," he continued. Sonic gulped. "You mean they're evil?" "Yes, evil, and highly unstable. Pure chaotic energy," Kidnobor sighed. "I transmorphed the chaos of the world into emeralds using the RQBF. Now the only thing remaining to do is to stabilize them with the gray emerald. Until we find the gray emerald, we're treading on very thin ice. If the emeralds are disturbed, in theory, they will double the amount of evil in the world. Stabilized, they will rid the world of evil and pollution. That done, I plan to launch them into space where they can harm no one," he said. Sonic's eyes grew wide. So this is why Kidnobor is always in a rush. He was holding the fate of the world in his hands, reflected on the sparkling surface of 6 emeralds. Dr. K noticed the expression on Sonic's face. "Don't worry," he said. "There aren't many forces that will push these beauties over the edge. The only problem I know of, I guard against by keeping them in this lead cabinet. That problem, of course..." He didn't have to finish the sentence. "Radiation," screamed Sonic, staring up at the computer screen on the wall. The next few moments brought unspeakable panic and confusion. The monitor glowed red with a display of impeding rays of radiation that had somehow penetrated the Earth's surface and was heading straight for the lab. Kidnobor scrambled to stuff the emeralds back in the bag. Sonic raced to the lead cabinet, flung open its doors, but in doing so jostled the RQBF. Kidnobor lunged for the cabinet, lost his balance, and spilled the emeralds onto the floor. The RQBF turned on and cast a weird, sickly beam of light, first on Dr. K, then on the emeralds, then on the half-eaten egg on the countertop. Sonic took shelter in the cabinet and reached for Kidnobor's arm to drag him inside. Then everything stopped. There was no explosion, no shattered bits of glass or twisted metal, just silence. Sonic awakened in the pitch black of the lead cabinet. Dr. Kidnobor was not inside with him. Sonic struggled to open the door and peeped out cautiously, and perhaps the only cautious act of his life. There lay Kidnabor sprawled across the lab floor. But now he looked different, hideous, quite round, with no muscle tone. His lab coat now stretched tight across his enormous girth. His arms were spread wide, distended by buckets of flesh encumbering his frame. But in the most alarming transformation was not in his physical person, it was in the small significant detail that Sonic had by now most taken for granted. The name on Kidnabor's label pen was different. Sonic looked at it in shock. Dr. Ivo Robotnik was his dear friend's new name. Then Sonic understood everything. Moments passed. It's difficult to say how long Sonic stood staring it down at his friend and realized he had to try and rescue the animal buddies and leave the lab in a hurry. If what he had thought had happened had really happened, Kidnabor had absorbed the evil and the Chaos Emeralds and was the disgusting shape of the hard-boiled egg. He would awaken the most vile and most evil personality on the face of the earth to set and strike out anything in path. Kidnabor, or shall we say Robotnik, stirred. "What are you gawking at, you ugly thing? Stand still so I can rip out your quills and turn you into an armadillo bot," Robotnik growled. Sonic jumped back and rushed out of the room to the main lab. Scampering at the speed of light, he had just enough time to grab a PC and race towards his friend's quarters, but by remote control, Robotnik had already sealed the door to the animal habitat. Sonic bolted out the back door and remembered the RQBF and ran back to grab as many golden rings as he could. Sonic scampered away at the speed of light, Robotnik curses echoing behind him. The end.